He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
This is the Alex Marlow Show. I'm very glad you're here. We got a big show today. Yesterday, thanks to all of you for checking it out. I think it was a really, really good show. Felt very smooth. This is my clip show, and I love doing clip shows, and it was nice to have Hugh's team. He's a few more producers than I do over there helping me out. But it's a great thing. We're in a new era in this country where In God We Trust is back in this country. And I feel like a lot of the ghouls, a lot of the demons are starting to reveal themselves, which is a gift that Charlie has given us from heaven, which is sensational. So a lot of great moments, but I feel like this is a real turning point in terms of bringing spirituality back to the forefront in American life, hearing people like Marco Rubio preach the gospel, J.D. Vance talk about his faith, and of course, those incredible moments with Erica Kirk. And, it's deeply meaningful. If Charlie's life could compel people to come to the Lord, then I think that is the ultimate legacy someone could have. It really is. So let's see if that happens in this country, because we could sure use a lot of it right now because the secular left is trying to destroy things. I'm popping up in a lot of media. It continues to be sort of a 24/7 news environment for me, which is great. It's a blessing. It's how I work through these things anyway. I would rather work them through with you, the audience, on air, and some of my friends' audiences. I was on Laura Ingraham's show yesterday, and I feel compelled to play it. I asked Misty to pull it, and she did pull it. So let's see. I have not seen this yet, but let's see how I did. Let's see how I did on Laura Ingraham's show talking about my friend Charlie. I got a solo A block segment on Fox. So Fox is a little hot and cold on me, as I mentioned over the years, but I get a primetime A block by myself. That was pretty cool. Let's see how I did with the opportunity.
React is Alex Marlow, Breitbart editor-in-chief, friend of Charlie's. Alex, I know you were also there yesterday. A lot of people were saying it was the most upbeat memorial service they had ever seen. What struck you most about yesterday, all the speeches, all the remarks, and just the mood inside?
Yeah, it was nourishing. It was enriching. There's a clear, lasting legacy that Charlie's going to have. This is the moment that America stopped ignoring In God We Trust as one of our founding principles. We are talking about God all the time in the context of our politics going forward. This is brand new. One of the key moments of the night was Marco Rubio, when he wasn't just talking about his faith, he was preaching the gospel for a crowd of 100,000 cheering people with an overflow crowd of tens of thousands in an adjacent stadium. Even Trump was marveling at the crowd. And then J.D. Vance comes in and said what was true, that he had talked more about his faith in the last 2 weeks than he had in his entire life until then. And I know that was true as well. And it all built up to that sensational moment with Erica Kirk doing the ultimate Christian act, which is granting forgiveness. Granting forgiveness, most powerful words you can say as a Christian. Laura, I know you and I are Catholics. How often do we say the Lord's Prayer at Mass? Every single Mass. We forgive those who trespass against us. It's automatic. It's what Christians do. And now to have that intertwined in our politics, it's a beautiful thing, and it is a stark contrast to how the left reacts when one of theirs gets killed.
And don't you think also, Alex, that idea of forgiveness and redemption, again, the left in their reaction to Charlie's assassination, they don't forgive America for listening to him. They don't forgive American students for engaging with him. They certainly don't forgive Donald Trump for getting elected, or the people for electing him.
No, they hate us, and we don't hate them. And I think that's really an important point. And it was really interesting when I heard those clips of Ilhan Omar and AOC, and you mentioned, should they debate Charlie? They can't even debate kids on a campus. They couldn't show up at a college Republican club or a Turning Point USA club and debate them. They have to hide. Jasmine Crockett, she couldn't debate anyone. That's why they fear us so much, is because not only are we happy warriors like Charlie, we're arming ourselves with arguments and intellect. The vibe in the room was sensational. The music was sensational. It was one of those experiences that was once in a lifetime, Laura. People are going to say they were at this event, even if they weren't. It's going to be timeless. It was a historic moment, and thank you, Charlie, for giving it to us.
And Alex, how funny was it when that MSNBC guest was like, Christian nationalism is like Christianity with Aristotle. It's really scary. I mean, that was like the implicit line of what she said. Oh my gosh, do they realize how they sound? I mean, this is This is hysterical. All right, Alex.
They want to replace Aristotle with Kimmel. They're replacing Aristotle with Kimmel now. That's how they are on the left.
Very good, Alex. Nice going. Great to see you, my friend.
You know, I didn't stutter. That's the main thing I liked. But the "In God We Trust" line, I came up with that in the van. I was sitting there in the van. What should I say? I think that was a good line. It's the "In God We Trust" on all of our coins. Those of you know I'm a huge Dennis Prager fan. He talks about this a lot. "In God We Trust" has been on all of our currency for, I don't know, almost a century, I think. And it feels like that is integral to what it means to be America. If you believe in American exceptionalism, if you believe in our founding principles, if you believe in our founding fathers, it is not that we're going to have a state-sanctioned religion. It's that we believe in God. And if we don't trust in God, then we don't have these inherent rights that we discuss. We don't have rights that are endowed by our creator without a creator, correct? So I think an important point, and I think that the debate point is also really relevant, is that they can't debate us. They're not going to. They're not going to do – you're not going to see anyone on the left holding court in a campus like this debating conservatives, because they're going to get their butts kicked even by teenage conservatives now who are armed with arguments from being online, stuff like that. And that was another one I came on the fly, swapping out Aristotle for Kimmel. Yeah, this was a clip she played in the run-up. She played a clip of this woman named Tina Nguyen, who I've talked to, as a left-wing reporter. And she was complaining about how we're bringing Aristotle back on the right. It's like, I don't know. Is that a bad thing? A little more Aristotle? Like, that sounds fine to me. So anyway, good. Well, thanks for Fox for having me back. I'm off the bench, I guess. So that's 2 Fox hits recently. Let's see if they continue. But grateful for the platform. And always a wonderful time with my friend Charlie. My speeches, I mentioned this on last week's show. I gave 2 speeches at an event at Pastor Alan Jackson's church in Nashville. I also had a panel discussion, which was really interesting, with Sage Steele and Eric Metaxas, my colleague at Salem, and Jason Whitlock, who's a super interesting guy. So those are coming out, and I'll probably release some of them on the podcast tomorrow or Thursday. So we'll do that. So you can. I like when you guys see my addresses, because I'll tell you, I talked about this on Hugh's show yesterday. Dr. Larry Arnn talking about the concept of suffering and how worthwhile things come from suffering. That's really kind of the only way to get there. And writing speeches and delivering speeches, there's a lot of suffering that goes into it. And it's a pretty big reward at the end. It feels great to give a good speech, but it takes time, because I do at least do a skeleton, if not write out the whole thing, and you deliver it, and you wonder if you're going to bomb, or you wonder if the audience is going to be any good. And then you get to do the speech, and if it's good, then I definitely will want to share those things, because they take a lot of effort to put them in. So we had a lot to do today. We're going to get to the UN General Assembly. I got a lot of not generic news, but just general news. I think we can start balancing out some of the content on the show now that Charlie's legacy is, I think, more secure than it was. I feel very confident in that. So there'll be a lot of Charlie content for years to come. But we'll be able to do, I think, a little bit of not single issue shows coming up. But we got some new sponsors on the show, and that's good. That's big for the show. My friend Dinesh D'Souza, he's done it again. He's got an eye-popping new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy. It illuminates a 3,000-year-old mystery about Israel, the Dark Resurrection, and the End of Days. I got a sneak peek of this when I was at an event for PragerU. This thing is going to be a sensation. The nation of Israel is a resurrected nation, but what if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, an enemy of Israel? After the horrific attack of October the 7th, The Dragon's Prophecy offers new understanding on Israel, radical Islam, anti-Semitism, and biblical prophecy. Could it be that the fate of the world, of all humanity, is tied to what we're seeing in the Middle East? Based on the #1 international bestseller by Jonathan Cahn, who is a very, very well-read author, The Dragon's Prophecy reveals how another realm could be transforming our world as we speak. Don't miss Dinesh D'Souza's new movie, The Dragon Prophecy. This is the important part. 2 nights only in theaters, October 6th and October 8th. We got to fill up the theaters. And then it's on streaming and DVD October 9th, but let's fill the theaters. We need those optics. All tickets and pre-orders at thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. That's thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. Dragons with an S. So you got to do it and support my friend Dinesh, and it's going to be great. All this stuff is great. Dinesh is a intellect, and he does the movie stuff because he understands that's the way to penetrate the culture the best. The guy's a deep thinker and a good friend. So let's support it. And really important. I just love the talk of the other realm stuff. It's important to me because You guys know I called this here. I was talking about, you heard me all of a sudden start talking about demonic presences, the presence of Satan, how we need an exorcism. You heard me talk about this after I witnessed the trans monster shooting up the children as they prayed. There's no explanation to me other than there's a demonic presence online that's working on younger people via the internet. And then also then we saw that brutal murder of the Ukrainian refugee, and then watching the media spin it as if the murderer was the victim, Van Jones in particular on CNN, but so many others. It just showed you that Satan's here. He's in this country right now, and there is a demonic force that we need to fight against. And it's just important for us to talk about it. And all of that was before Charlie got assassinated, which is, of course, an act of pure heinous evil. And then we watch the media cover for the assassin, in particular Jimmy Kimmel, who is now going to be back on the air. I mentioned this briefly on yesterday's show with Hugh, but Kimmel's back on, and this is another win for us. I said this from the start. Kimmel going off the air is a win-win because, first of all, we've got the not only Sinclair, but the Next Star are not going to carry the shows. So his ratings are going to get even lower than they were. They're already going down 13 consecutive years. He had lower ratings than Colbert, which had low ratings. And he's got the benefit of government spectrum. So these government, the government allocates a certain amount of spectrum for the airwaves, and ABC's got a lot of it. So he's blessed by the U.S. government. So, of course, pressure from the FCC is not just reasonable, it's precedent. That's how it's always been because the government sanctions the show. And so the fact that Brendan Carr put some pressure on it is not an attack on free speech at all. It's the government doing what it always does. And it really was the corporations of Sinclair and Nexstar saying we're not going to carry this filth anymore because the advertisers don't like it, the audience doesn't like it. It's not good for our business to carry this junk, so they're not going to carry the show. And then, but Disney's backing it, which is perfect because that is, as I said earlier, this is Disney announcing itself. To quote my friend John Nolte at Breitbart, "We at Disney hate you. We hold you in contempt. We hold everything you believe in contempt. We have no respect for the truth and therefore no respect for you. And to prove this, we are willing to keep a proven liar and ratings failure on the air, even though reruns of Celebrity Family Feud in the same time slot are cheaper to produce and make us more money." That's perfect. It's exactly right. So I'm saying catch with yarn, pawn it around. That would do better than Kimmel. You know, a podcast that's, produced by a couple of people sitting around chatting would do better ratings than this. It's a huge production, huge staff. You saw how much money Colbert was losing. And Disney's backing it, which just announces where Disney's at. And you saw there's a story about how people aren't going to Disney World, Florida, the same way they were. Disney's going to have to go. They're going to turn to China, rely on China, stuff like that. And they're just losing touch with America. This is a huge reveal that where Disney is at. That they're willing to back Kimmel, who's probably losing them tons of money. And he didn't apologize. He didn't take it back. Maybe he'll apologize tonight. He'll be back on the air tonight. We'll see what he says. But even so, he got back in the air without putting out a public apology, without saying, I should not have said that this killer was MAGA, even though he was clearly an Antifa radical with a trans furry boyfriend. This person was on the hard left. All the witnesses said he was on the hard left. So it is pretty stunning that they did this. And that's why it's a positive. It's if he stayed off the air, that's great. And if he's back on the air, it's great. Like, they're both great. And this is what people have got to understand, that Trump does this stuff. And Charlie is doing this from beyond the grave, where he's getting people to take these impossible positions, these horrible lines. The Ilhan Omars and the AOC is attacking him from, well, he's recently been assassinated by people on the left. It reveals them to be horrible people. All right, I got where's my clip here? I got so many clips here today. Okay, so this is Chuck Todd talking about Antifa with Chris Cillizza, who's another mainstream media veteran. Check this out.
It's going to be this executive order where they're going to try to create a new classification for anybody on the left who opposes Trump as somehow a member of Antifa and a terrorist.
Yes.
Like, this is coming. And I don't think we are fully now. I don't think there's any the problem. Like, I don't even know what Antifa is. I know what the definition of Antifa is, and I know
what the word means, but it's not
correct.
A group.
There is no group.
No.
And so, but what's dangerous is that by designating it, who's going to define who the group is? And if the Trump administration decides to say, you, George Soros, are a part of this group that I designated, and you're like, no, I'm not, and it doesn't matter, like they're going to then use that as some sort of potential opening. And I think that's...
Oh, the left opened themselves up to this, the way they dealt with J6 and all that stuff, where they acted, and the way they tried to keep prosecuting Trump for RICO. Think about the Fonnie Willis thing. They tried to say that Trump was running a criminal conspiracy to try to overturn the election. So this is all out of their playbook if Trump does something like this. But it's interesting to me. I think the striking point, the point that really jumped out at me in this, is that they're simultaneously trying to make the case that this guy wasn't Antifa. In fact, he was MAGA, but also Antifa doesn't exist. So that's tough for them to try to say both. And it does reveal that they're completely confused and they have no messaging on this. Because which one is it? Is it that this guy was not Antifa and I don't know what Antifa is, Antifa's not a real thing? Or is it that he was actually MAGA? So it's just very confusing. They don't have any messaging. And that's why they're getting themselves into a lot of trouble, is because them trying to message what to do. Of course, Antifa should be designated a terrorist organization. I called it first. I put in that tweet on X, that X Everything app. You can look it up. I had it in front of me. I'm not going to pull it back up, but it was a day or two after Charlie got murdered that I said, got to designate Antifa and Trantifa as terrorist group just to make sure that we can investigate them and hold people accountable and make it so that they can't recruit. And so this is one of their tricks that Chuck Todd's happy about and Chris Liz is happy about. They want it to be this amorphous blob of an entity where if there's not a literal group where you get an Antifa, patch for your filthy leather jacket or something that you wear, or for your beanie hat, you could put an Antifa logo on it, then it doesn't count. That's what they want, because that makes it harder for us, the good guys, to prosecute them, the violent bad guys. So this is a defense of Antifa. Just don't read into this as anything else. He thinks he's making some creative point to try to get it, I don't know, to get attention for his podcast or whatever. But that's not what this is. This is a guy who's defending Antifa, whether or not he knows it or not. And that's the whole point about Kimmel, is that when you lie about the nature of the murder, then you are protecting the murderer, and you're protecting the people who radicalize the murderer, and you're creating a climate of violence where you're incentivizing people to be violent because you know that people like Kimmel and Chuck Todd will make the problem not the murderer, they'll make the problem Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk and people like me. So that's what's so demonic here, and this is how the demon is getting his hooks into this country.
That's what's so extraordinarily dangerous about these designations, like what he did with. Look, he's sort of testing the theory of this case with what he's doing with Venezuela and sort of designating this sort of, well, they're narco-terrorists.
Narco-terrorists.
And somehow it allows, by the way, he's using the AUMF as their legal cover on this, which of course is just
20-odd years old.
So far removed from what the AMUF was meant to be.
It's extremely important to remember that it's actually the left that is the ones that have weaponized the justice system against Trump. And so the suggestion that it's actually Trump that's going to do it against Antifa, and that's a big threat, is just, it's fairy dust. This is not real. I did happen to write a whole book about this, New York Times bestseller, exploring this subject. And we have evidence day to day. Here's Hakeem Jeffries, who's the most powerful Democrat in the Congress, talking about this exact thing. Check this out.
One thing to understand, as people who are flirting with the Trump administration or doing the bidding of the Trump administration or engaging in the pay-to-play schemes of the Trump administration, the statute of limitations is 5 years. Donald Trump and this toxic administration will be long gone, but there will still be accountability to be had. And that process, of course, begins.
First of all, we're 23 seconds in. He said nothing. So it's just, this is one of the things that Democrats do. I don't know how people watch these shows because there's just nothing happens on them. It's so irritating. The pay-to-play scheme of the Trump administration, it's like, what's he talking about? No one knows what he's talking about. People who are flirting with the Trump administration, what does that mean? No one knows what that means. He doesn't know what it means. He's just talking.
Now, but it will not be complete until perhaps there is an independent Department of Justice, certainly an independent House of Representatives in Democratic hands. The Department of Justice is one of the great institutions in law enforcement in the history of this country, and Donald Trump and these extremists have been destroying its integrity.
We know what he's saying here. He's saying here that the Democrats get power again. They're going to use the DOJ to investigate Trump. Like, that's it. But he already did that. So it's exactly what they did before. That's why I wrote the whole book, Breaking the Law, to explain this. The DOJ was deeply politicized. And Merrick Garland was sort of a patsy because people thought he looked like a nice guy, even though he was not a good guy. But the people right underneath him, Vanita Gupta and Lisa Monaco, were Democrat operatives who had the second and third most powerful positions in the Department of Justice, which is over 100,000 people, and they were weaponizing the legal system against Donald Trump. So it's just nice for him to admit it finally. So this is where they're so lost. They don't have any coherent arguments. I was going to play a clip for you guys of this guy, Bradley Whitford, who's a actor. He was on The West Wing. You'd recognize him if you saw him. But he's on CNN, and it was just such a rambling, horrible, boring clip. But he says that taking Kimmel off the air is an attack on free speech. Kimmel is allowed to talk. It's just that these corporations are not forced to carry his show if they think the content is dishonest, is fake news, is misinformation, is disinformation, might be adding to a climate of violence, might be obscene and indecent. They don't have to carry it. So they don't have anything that's really going to stick and land. And that's why I feel like we just continue to run up the score in this moment. And this is where they're leaderless. We've never seen a Democrat Party be so leaderless. Kamala Harris is starting a book tour, and I'll play some clips from that. I had Misty pull a couple for me just because I just want to see where she's at. And I've been debating whether or not I should read the book. Maybe I should. I normally do these things for all of you. I normally try to read them so that you don't have to. I can report back. I did pull a J.B. Pritzker clip because this guy's running for president. So let's see where he's at today.
Trump says this about crime. He's coming into Chicago for crime.
But it's a lie that we've seen. I mean, if we're reducing crime at the rate that we are, and we are, and you've seen it all across the country, why is he sending troops into cities? It makes no sense.
So you think it's about the midterms?
I do. I absolutely think that is what it's about. And it's about his authoritarian need to control that.
Notice the pattern that they keep saying authoritarian. They keep saying fascist. I was playing the Maxwell Frost clip a couple days ago of him. He's still talking about Trump being a fascist. We had a guy who wrote, "Hey, fascist catch," and murdered in broad daylight one of Trump's most powerful allies. And they're still talking, he's a fascist, he's an authoritarian. They can't stop doing it. They can't control themselves because they feel like this is the path to winning a Democrat primary, but it's because they're bubbled and they don't talk to normal people. Normal people don't like this stuff anymore. Trump's not an authoritarian. He was democratically elected, and he overcame an assassination attempt, a second assassination attempt, all the lawfare, and he was able to win every single swing state. So stop talking about him this way if you want to be a uniter. Same people go out and say we need a moment of unity. And the content of this, just forget about the language, that he thinks it's a political act to try to enforce law and order. He thinks the main thing you have to do is protect the criminals in Illinois. That's the goal. The amount of murders that take place every weekend in Illinois, there are dozens of shootings and several deaths from gun violence in Chicago alone every weekend. We track it every weekend in Breitbart News. But he thinks it's a political act to try to enforce the law. That Trump is not enforcing law and order because Trump believes in law and order, which is not a left-wing value, as I've written many times. He thinks it's all about politics. Let's play the rest.
That whole endeavor is really about making sure that he can effectuate the rest of his agenda for the remaining 2 years of his 4-year term.
All right, so Kamala's out there on her book tour, and I'll give it. We get a bunch of these, but I'll play one. I don't want to drag it out too long, but let's play a little Kamala.
If his reaction to that, since this part of the book has come out,
with Rachel Maddow,
if you've had any reflection on that, or I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for president of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but
that
we had such a short period of time.
It's so painful. So the thing that she wrote in her book is that part of the reason she didn't pick Buttigieg as her vice president is because he was gay. And that wasn't electorally, it didn't work with the data she was getting, the polling she's getting. And I think that what's so compelling about this is that Pete Buttigieg is not gay. He's a fake gay, that he only acts like he's gay to advance his political career. And Tim Walz is a real gay. I'm just joking. There's all a joke. But that is one of the fun rumors online, is that Buttigieg is not gay. He's just a political panderer. And that Walz, with his flappy hands that he does all the time, maybe he's a real gay. So anyway, the point is that this is all identity politics, and it's all stupid. And it just is, if they had good values and they could convince people that their values are good and could help the country, but instead they got to do all this identity politics, is that because they had a black woman on the ticket, they then couldn't have a gay, which is just amazing, because Buttigieg has really made being gay, his sexual preferences, part of his identity. And I just think that's interesting. So then they put Tim Walz there so that he could talk to normal people, but he was so bad at talking to normal people. He was just such a turnoff. One of the weirdest people I've ever seen, calling JD Vance weird, who seems like one of the most normal people in politics. So, man, it's going to be awkward to watch her do her tour. So we're going to have a lot of clips from that. And we'll have clips from her tour, and I'll highlight what's going on over there. But it really fun to see that, and to see her having to. The Democrats have not gone through their civil war, as I keep pointing out, and then now if a extremely woke far left Democrat like Kamala Harris is getting it from the left, from Rachel Maddow, that's exactly where we want to be about a year out from the midterms. Okay, I have some good news here. Google has admitted political censorship on YouTube, and they're promising to embrace free speech. On Tuesday, they promised to restore YouTube accounts that have been banned for political speech. Sean Moran writes for us at Breitbart News. It means that the Biden administration pressured it to censor Americans that did not violate the company's terms of service. Jim Jordan gets a lot of credit here. Due to our oversight efforts, Google commits to offer all creators previously kicked off YouTube due to political speech violations to return to the platform. And then he goes through some other wins here, but basically Google admits censorship under Biden, ending bans for certain accounts. And this is important for me because I'm thinking about this because I'm just starting to build my YouTube channel. I hope all of you subscribe, but it's very hard to break out some of my interviews and clips just because the nature of the algorithm it does not promote conservatives. It does not cater to conservatives. And remember, the algorithm is written by people, and these are left-wing Silicon Valley people. So it's a relief if Google's going to try to play fair, and I don't care who put pressure on them to do it. They just need to be fair. We don't need to cheat. We just want it to be fair. And Google has been the worst, most censorious of all the left-wing Silicon Valley outlets. And maybe they're looking at the writing on the wall. They're seeing how the Democrats are in disarray. They're seeing how Trump is pro-business, pro-growth. And very likely we're going to see a Republican president again in 4 years, especially after the Kirk assassination. It's going to be one of these things where Google would be smart to think we could be looking at 12 plus years of MAGA. Maybe it's time to start not discriminating against them. So great win from Jim Jordan, and more detail for you at Breitbart News. The other big item today is Trump is at the UN General Assembly. But before I get into a little bit of that detail, I want to note a new sponsor. This is a Brickhouse Nutrition and their lean product. Look, you guys have seen fad diets over the years, juice cleanses, cabbage soup diet, raw food diet. You know that stuff's not sustainable. By the time a person hits 60, the average person now has lost hundreds of pounds and gained hundreds of pounds. So the weight fluctuation, we've never seen anything like it because we've never been such a fat culture, but we also have the ability to lose weight and then people put the weight back on. So it's called weight cycling, and half of Americans do it. And if you do it enough, you could be at risk for, we don't really know what. It could be bad for your liver, diabetes, heart attack, stroke. It is when you lose 10 pounds or more, and it is tough to do because a lot of us get focused and we lose focus. There's so much food, so much abundance. And then you put the pounds on, maybe you add a couple more, maybe you get to your fattest point ever. It's a lot of strain in your organs. I will tell you this, I know this from Mrs. Dr. Marlow, and her line of work is that being overweight is a huge problem, makes everything more complicated. So most people need to stop the weight cycling, and this is a great way to do it. Non-prescription lean. That's the name of the product, lean. It's created by doctors. It's an oral supplement, not GLP, so not the fat shot. So not injectable. And the science is very impressive. It's studied ingredients that target weight loss in 3 powerful ways. It helps you maintain healthy blood sugar, helps you control appetite and cravings, and it helps you burn fat by converting it to energy. So burning fat helps keep the weight off. So if you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace and keep it off, add lean to your diet and exercise lifestyle. So this is a supplement to healthy living, and you get 20% off if you put Marlow at checkout. If you go to takelean.com, Marlow at checkout gets you 20% off. Not the fat shot. It is a oral supplement that you could take. Add that to your healthy lifestyle, and you could be a lot healthier person in the end. All right, let me get Trump's at the UN General Assembly, which I always have a blast these things. My Breitbart Fight Club interview today is with Francis Martel on the subject. We'll be talking, basically the main takeaway, what we've seen so far, is that Trump's saying that the UN their performance is terrible and globalism is terrible, but UN as an institution could be great. And the world is sort of more peaceful since the UN's been around, as annoying as the UN is, as much as we hate one world government. There probably is less war because the UN's around, and that's a positive. And Trump wants to work with people to get a better world. And that's why he, I think, is taking a very clever approach, which is instead of saying we're going to blow up the UN, which is not going to happen, which means we're turning it over to the anti-Semites and the communists and the Marxists. He's saying UN's going to be great. We're going to make the UN great again. This seems to be the approach. I get a lot of clips from this, but I'm going to pick a couple that I'll share with you with the time we have remaining. Check out this one.
On the world stage, America is respected again like it has never been respected before. You think about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or 1 year ago, we were a laughingstock all over the world.
Yeah, that's good. And America is all way more respected than we were. Let's play some more.
Whether the UN can manage to play a productive role, I've come here today to offer the hand of American leadership and friendship to any nation in this assembly that is willing to join us in forging a safer, more prosperous world. And it's a world that we'll be much happier with. A dramatically better future is within our reach. But to get there, we must reject the failed approaches of the past and work together to confront some of the greatest threats in history.
It was great for efficiency on the show. I mean, how could you add to that? That's exactly right. Let's play some more. Trump on migrants.
According to the Council of Europe, in 2024, almost 50% of inmates in German prisons were foreign nationals or migrants. In Austria, the number was 53% of the people in prisons were from places that weren't from where they are now. In Greece, the number was 54%. And in Switzerland, beautiful Switzerland, 72% of the people in prisons are from outside of Switzerland. When your prisons are filled with so-called asylum seekers who repaid kindness, and that's what they did, they repaid kindness with crime. It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now.
All right. So let me play you my two favorites from the day. But he's just so crisp. I mean, he's our guy. He's so right about all this stuff. And he does it in this sort of loving way, with this avuncular, I think is the 8th grade vocabulary word for it. We're just, look, you guys are messing up, but we're ready for you to be great again. Okay. So this is about green energy.
Egregious way, but it's true. I've been right about everything. And I'm telling you that if you don't get away from the green energy scam, your country is going to fail. And if you don't stop people that you've never seen before, that you have nothing in common with, your country is going to fail. I'm the president of the United States, but I worry about Europe. I love Europe. I love the people of Europe. And I hate to see it being devastated by energy and immigration. This double-tailed monster destroys everything in its wake, and they cannot let that happen any longer. You're doing it because you want to be nice, you want to be politically correct, and you're destroying your heritage.
It's incredible.
They must take control strongly and immediately of the unmitigated immigration disaster and the fake energy.
Just enjoy it, guys. We got a little bit more than 3 years left of the Trump administration, unless we figure out something creative and get him another 4, which I'm totally up for if you can figure it out. But he's sensational. It's exactly right. And it just, the tone is right. It's just, you're trying to do something good. Maybe you have best intentions, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And the green energy economy has been a scam. It's enriched some of the worst nations, warlords in Africa, China, and it's not working. The cars don't go very far. They don't retain value. And carbon emissions is not the evil that we need to be worried about right now. I would like to think we should be worried about actual evil, and also creating more wealth and abundance for normal people would be great as well. So it's the focus on the green energy economy has been a scam, and it's just been used to grow government and confiscate power for the chosen elite, and has not been good for the West. It really hasn't. All right, this is my favorite one, and this one is humorous. Trump shows up at the event, and immediately the escalator stopped working. And then he went to give his speech, and the teleprompter stopped working, which is interesting because we pay a lot of money at the UN, and they can't keep the trains running on time, apparently. Here it is.
You're going to push Zelensky for peace, President Trump.
This is a clip of the escalator itself. So Trump's about to go up. He's with Melania. He's on, and then it stopped. The second he gets on, it just stops. They're all looking around like, what's going on? It's going to be very scary as a president, though, because he's got a target on his back, literally speaking, and now he's walking up the escalator. That is one of the things. This was a great Mitch Hedberg line, is that escalator is never out of service. It's just temporarily stairs. So how many things can break and then just be still useful? It's sorry for the convenience.
How dare you?
Okay, let's play Trump commenting on this.
Very much appreciated. And I don't mind making this speech without a teleprompter, because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you, nevertheless, and that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
That's amazing. He's amazing. And it just, I've always been afraid that I've never done a teleprompter speech. I did a couple of online videos where I used teleprompter a few years ago, and I didn't like it because I don't trust it. I don't trust the prompter will move at the right moment. So I don't, it's a real skill. And it got Obama elected president, being able to use teleprompter well. All right, I think that's where we'll leave it for today. I'll tell you, I have 1 extra hour of the Hugh Hewitt Show that I recorded yesterday with some of my favorite clips from the Charlie Memorial. And I also have my real-time reaction to the Robert Kennedy, Donald Trump announcement about Tylenol and autism, not vaccine related, though vaccines do come up. And I was thinking of using that today, but I think we had enough content for today. So I'll put that out tomorrow on tomorrow's show. As I noted earlier, I'll also put out some of my speeches I've been giving on Charlie's behalf. So we'll have some cool content for you, and you're going to enjoy this stuff. I'm very proud of my ability to curate the best clips when I watch events in real time. So there's some good stuff to share, but it was a deeply meaningful event, and I think keeping it in the news cycle another day is probably beneficial. Plus, we should have some more Trump UN. Things are moving here. An exciting time to be in America, and I feel us on the comeback trail. Hey, and Misty, we're going to get Kimmel back on the air. Let's see what he says. We'll get some Kimmel clips tomorrow. So tomorrow should be a good show as well. So that's it. We'll leave it there. I'm Alex Marlow. Thank you for subscribing, 5-star reviews, leaving comments, places. Keep that engagement going, telling 10,000 friends and family members about the show. And of course, hitting subscribe is the main thing, wherever you get your pods. All right, that's it. Thanks, Misty. Thanks, John Cassio, for pulling clips, and we'll see you tomorrow.